What's up, everybody? It is Sunday night, which means it is time to wind down your weekend here at Bat City Comic Professionals. As always, I am your host, Small Press Shann, as we wind down the weekend with this week's choice, which is Campo Viejo. Oh my gosh. This is Tempranillo, which is probably my favorite wine at this point. It's a little spicier. They literally label intense and complex as the higher ratings on this one before even fruit. So I don't know how you flavor intensity, but I love that that's what they went with. So I'm going to give it a shot before I even jump into what's going on. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. It's supposed to be red fruits, which, you know, take your pick apparently on which fruits you want to put in there, with hints of vanilla and spices. And I don't know what spices they use, but Campo Viejo, you got my vote. This is delicious, and I'm probably going to drink this entire bottle way before I even get to Picks of the Week because it's so good. But if you are looking for a good wine and you don't like sweet things, I'm guessing this is going to be one that you'll like. And Tempranillos in general, probably something you'll like more if you're not into the sweet stuff. I'm not a sweet fan. I'll eat like a donut and I'm like, oh, that's as sweet as I want to get. That's good for like a week. And so, but I do love salty and spicy things. And this is definitely a wine that hits that spot. And they say to enjoy it with good food and good friends. So thanks for being my friend tonight and enjoying this wine with me. We're also going to enjoy some comics. But before we get into that, just to give you kind of the lowdown on what happened this week. As you can see, it's just me. So Wednesday Phil, who usually joins me on the show, couldn't make it tonight. And the sound effects would normally go, "Aw," right there. I don't know if we even still have the sound effects. So I'm filling it in for you. Yay! I don't know if that's where you yay when somebody makes the sad sound effect. But it's just going to be me tonight. Matt is back on the camera as per usual. So if I just randomly start talking to somebody else in the room, I'm not talking to myself like a crazy person. But we are, we've had a lot of cool things going on this week. We had superhero story time on Saturday, which was super awesome. We had a lot of rain recently, and so it was nice to go back to some sunshiny days. Ascura, our good friends over at Ascura, had a lot of cool shows this weekend, and they had their Friendly City Flea, which I love. We got to go see our buddy from Ascura, Sarah, sell her Christmas ornaments, and if you are looking for some weird, off-the-wall, I describe them as if Sid from Toy Story decided to make Christmas ornaments, these would be the ones. So if you need something like that for your Christmas tree this year, I know who to connect you to. And if you're in Bradenton, you should definitely check out Sarah at Ascura's Christmas Ornaments. And also you should just check out Ascura because it's the coolest. So we had all that. Did we do anything else in shop this week? What did we do? I already forgot. All the days blend together. We made a Christmas window. That's the thing we did. Matt and I redid the front window this week, and it's got all your great Christmas ideas. It's even got a Christmas Santa meets Superman slab in the window. I was trying to think, like, who did Santa meet in it? But Santa met Superman in a story, and we've got that slabbed in the front. So if you're looking for a great gift, we also got in like 100, we call them cheaper slabs, but great, amazing slabs that if you're looking for a good Christmas present, we've got a ton that are under $100, a lot that are like even under 40. Ooh, I think we're gonna get some sneak peeks at some of them because Matt just took off running. I am super excited to see which ones he grabs because there are so many good ones. I know I had a couple favorites in there because some of my favorite characters, Matt pulled some of the coolest covers since Small Outs CGC. They're back. They're great gifts. If you've ever been like, what should I give a person that loves comics in my life? Honestly, these slabs are a great choice for that because they give you something that is like, I thought of you, but also you can put this on your wall and you can hang it up. We've got the little slab holders. People can put them on their wall or on a bookshelf or anything like that and kind of enjoy the fun. Ooh, here they are. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, you brought me a ton. All right, I'm going to move this wine so I can hold them up. So we've got this Amazing Spider-Man 700.3 in a 9.4, which is a really cool cover for Spider-Man fans. We've got, I'm just going to lay them down right here. $40. Oh yeah, and it's only $40. I guess I'll put them that way. There we go. This one I love. We got this 9.0 Silver Surfer number 50. Ooh, as I break the glass on the counter. This is super cool. This has that, like, is it embossed or is it actually, like, both? It's holographic. And foil. And, yeah, foil, embossed, amazing Silver Surfer cover. Honestly, this is one of those that I think makes an excellent gift because it's just such a cool dynamic cover. If you like Silver Surfer, this is something that you're definitely going to love. And that's only $35, which is pretty much cheaper than getting something slabbed in general. We've got, oh, you brought this one? Okay, I don't really want to show this because I don't want anybody to buy it, but to me this is the perfect Christmas present because this is a Spider-Man Get Craven number 4, and this is the Home Alone homage variant. And I think that aside from Batman, oh my gosh, Batman Returns, I think that Home Alone is probably one of the most Christmas movies of all time. And so I love that this is a Home Alone homage on a Spider-Man cover. It's an absolutely perfect Christmas gift. And I think this one's also $40, which is fantastic. What else did you give me? Ooh, Ghost Rider. Everybody loves Ghost Rider. And this one has the Ghost Rider label. This is a 9.0 Ghost Rider. And I'm trying, oh, is it foil? Yeah. Yeah, show off that foil. I can't see the back of the book, so I'm like, ooh, is this one foily? Yeah, I love that Ghost Rider label. I love that it's a great way to show off if you're a fan of that character and get that matching label while you still can. And this one is $45. And then we also got Batman Futures In number 1. This is one of the lenticular covers. This is actually a 9.8. I'm going to turn that a couple ways. The back of this one is also lenticular. It's an American Dad ad that's lenticular, so that's kind of dope. But this is a really cool one for Batman fans. And lastly, what else? Ooh, Miles Morales, issue 23. This is a dope Miles cover. And this one is such a great gift. There's probably at least 6 people in your life that Miles Morales is their favorite character right now. Or has always been, and so this is a great gift, especially for the kiddos who think that Spider-Man is only Miles Morales and Peter Parker isn't their Spider-Man at all. This is a great way to get a good first slab for a kid for Christmas, or the other Spider-Man fans in your life. So that's kind of a big thing that happened this week in the store, and there are, like I said, there's 100 new slabs in store. So if you're looking for an affordable, I guess that's the better way to say it, an affordable slab for a Christmas gift, we've got a ton of them. So come in and check them out and see what we got. So you look like you're about to say something. What do you got? Oh, yes. And that is, I was going to save that, but I guess we should definitely start with that. And then in sad news for the week, we lost the voice of our generation. I think there's two major voices in our generation, and they both come out of the same property, and one of them was lost this week. So we lost the great Kevin Conroy, who has definitely been a huge part of all of our lives. If you are a fan of Batman at all, you're probably a fan of Batman the animated series. You probably even assume that is the Batman, like most of us. And I know a lot of people, I saw in their post this week that said that when they read Batman comics, they hear Kevin Conroy's voice in their head. And I hope that never changes for you. Like Mark Hamill said, we are all sad about it. And we all have these, great memories, though, too. And what Kevin would want is for everybody to be excited in their memories and think about all the good times. So if you have a Kevin Conroy story, whether it's from meeting Kevin or just experiences with Batman the Animated Series or any of the other shows, share it in the comments, because sharing those moments that are wonderful is what keeps the spirit of a human alive, and we need to share those. So if you have Kevin Conroy stories that you want to share, drop them in the comments, whether you're watching it live on Facebook or you're watching this later on YouTube, because that's a great way to just share those incredible moments. And speaking of sharing, I'm going to take 2 seconds and I'm going to share this so everybody knows that we're live, and I'm going to know how to spell comics when I do it. Sweet. We are going to talk about some comics now. I wish I just had brought all Batman and just to talk about Kevin Conroy all night, but I didn't, because this is Wind Down Your Weekend, and we like to talk about indie books. So I'm going to kick it off with Daniel Warren Johnson's ongoing series right now from Image Comics, which is Do a Powerbomb. This is issue 6. And this has been such a cool story. I didn't think that when somebody told me Daniel Warren Johnson is doing a wrestling book, I thought, cool, okay, so we have another wrestling book coming out, but it's going to have some stellar art because Daniel Warren Johnson is just hyper detailed. It's going to be amazing. And it was like, actually, Daniel Warren Johnson is writing this book. And I was like, oh man, it's going to be dark like Wonder Woman Dead Earth. And he definitely was successful in that, because in the very first issue, our main character, who's a young girl, goes to watch her mom in a wrestling competition. And in the battle, her mom dies. And that's in the first 3 pages of the book. And you kind of have a terrible, sad experience with dealing with all that. And then over the course of the first volume of this book, we've seen our main character grow up and become a wrestler herself. And she is offered the experience to enter into a competition, a wrestling tournament that's almost like a reverse Mortal Kombat. Like, instead of anybody dying, they get to bring somebody back from the dead. Whoever the champion of the battle is, they will get to bring someone they love back. But the twist is that it's a tag team match. And so really the only way to be successful is to honestly have somebody on your team who also wants to bring the same person back. And that's really never the case. So our main character goes to the only person she can think of who would want to bring her mom back as much as her, which is the wrestler who was responsible for her mom dying in the match. And so they become a tag team duo that has to enter into this necromancer's ultimate, like, Mortal Kombat kind of battle. And we've seen how the battle has played out, and I honestly thought that issue 5 was going to be the end, and then issue 6 came out, and now this could keep going for another 4 issues easily if Daniel Warren Johnson wanted to. So what I thought would end up being a 6-part series, with this being the wrap-up, or even a 5-part series, now looks like it's probably going to be ongoing to either 8 or 12 issues. It's really great. If you haven't jumped in, I highly recommend it. I don't know if we'll see, since it might just be up to 8 issues, might be up to 12. We might not get a trade right at this point, but I definitely think now's the time to go back and try to find those first few issues and get into it. From Image as well, we have Seven Sons issue 6, and this is a 6 of 7 series, and so we are about to wrap up. And this is Jay Lee on interior art for the first time in about a decade, so it's super cool to see somebody who we all kind of have gotten to the point where we just associate them with covers doing interior art for the first time in a long time. And in this book, there were 7 sons, as the case may be, and they were all prophesized by someone that one of them would be the return of the Messiah. And it was kind of whoever lives to be the age of 33 essentially would get to become, or adulthood I think it is, would get to become the new Messiah for the world. And they've all been trained in how to do everything, the miracle work that they need to do, all of the stuff. And they've all kind of been essentially. They've had somebody who's been telling them all these things about themselves, and one of them realizes that they are actually just pawns in a game, and they have the media, the people behind the scenes, they've all been kind of taking out each of the sons one by one. And this is kind of the story of that particular son as he figures out what everybody is doing behind the scenes and is trying to save not only himself but whatever remaining brothers he has left. It's actually a really, really cool story, and it's great to see because to see how other people kind of view each other, and how it looks at how people look at religion and how we look at all of these different mythos from different cultures in different ways, because everybody kind of has the son that they're rooting for, and so it's almost like, oh, we all have a different view on who is actually the ultimate end-all be-all for religion, and we kind of pit each other against each other, and in reality it's like this whole thing has just been a construct, and we don't even know who the real one actually is. And so it's a really interesting story with some cool Jay Lee art. Up next, from Tom King and Image Comics, we have Love Everlasting issue 4. And I honestly debated whether or not this should actually just go into Picks of the Week this week, because every time I talk about this book, I get more and more excited about it, and I feel like we're missing out, like so many people are missing out on one of Tom King's amazing stories. I know a lot of people at this point are like, I kind of just wait until Tom King gets to issue 7 or 8 before I pick up a story. But you should be picking this one up specifically just for the fact that it looks like Darwin Cook art. It's so amazing. I love this art style, and it lends itself so well to the story, which is the story of a girl who is living romantic books. Like, she's reading romance novels, and each issue we get a different romance novel and one of the different kind of stories. So this one particularly follows the war story where she falls in love with a soldier while she's working as like a USO singer. And it's such a sad thing because in each story, as she falls in love, once she gets to the point where the love of her life, this perfect person, proposes to her and she agrees to marry them, somebody comes in and kills her. And she wakes up inside of a different romance novel story, and she relives the experience over and over again, but they're always different stories. And in this one, she sees this gentleman who comes to her with a group of friends, and they're about to go. They've all come to the military together, and they're about to start their first tour. And basically, every time she sees him come back, it's months later, it's 6 months later, it's 7 months later, it's a year later. And every time they come back to the bar, they come back because he's lost another member of his friends group, and they all come back to the bar where they started it. And every time he proposes marriage, he tells her he loves her, and she's like, I can't, because if I propose to you, or if I accept your proposal, then we're both just gonna die. And this is the first time she realizes that maybe that's not the worst thing that could happen to the other people in her story. And it's such a really amazing book, and I love that we're getting these romance novels in comic book form, and Tom King just tells a great story every time. Well, we also have this essentially murder mystery, and the only person who even knows that there's a murder or a mystery is the main character of the story. So it's really cool to see her as the only one trying to figure it out, and yet at the same time she's kind of resigned herself to, okay, I guess I'm doing this again over and over and over again. It's such a great story, and like I just said, I'm sure at issue 7 or 8 I'm going to come in and tell you that was never what this book was about. So I get why people wait for Tom King to get further into a story, but you're missing out with this one. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you have that friend who's into romance novels, who you've been trying to get into comic books, this is definitely going to be their gateway into it, because you do just get a romance story after a romance story, and it's absolutely fantastic. Up next, a book that I haven't brought in a really long time, and it's actually from DC, and their Black Label. This is Nice House on the Lake, issue 11. And I'm bringing this actually solely for the fact that this is a 12-part series that's been on hiatus multiple times, and people are kind of forgetting that Nice House on the Lake is still going on. So I wanted to bring it to remind you that Nice House on the Lake is still going, and we only have one issue left, which is insane to think that we're going to get an ending, but it's also insane to think that it's taken this long. If you haven't read Nice House on the Lake, I'm going to try to show this in a way that doesn't spoil much for you. But it has Alvaro Martinez Bueno's amazing art, and it's got James Tynion on writing. And this is the story of a group of friends who all have one mutual friend in common. And some of them know each other from high school, some of them know each other from college, some of them know each other from life after all of that, and they are all brought to this one house. It's a beautiful house on the lake, and they think they're just spending a weekend there, only to find out that the world outside of where they're staying has gone into utter chaos and destruction. And while they're here, they can have anything and everything they want, but if they actually choose to attempt anything outside the world, they can't get out there. And so it starts out as a beautiful vacation, ends up a crazy horror story that's kind of just a thriller, a suspense of what's going to happen next. And as we get to issue 11, we just kind of have more and more slow-moving danger approaching, and this one really ramps it up literally to 11 and gets us ready for a finale that's going to be insane. So if you haven't started Nice House, there's trade paperbacks for volume 1 for those first 6 issues, and you're going to want to dive into that soon. Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump in and say this. Ram has some great stories. He said, when I was a little boy, I watched Batman the Animated Series 5 days a week on Fox Kids after school. And Frank said he's glad we talked about Love Everlasting because he's not a Tom King fan, so it's good to know what's going on. Yes, you would actually like it, Frank, because I know you love to see how books can be adapted, and it's just a really cool way to see how they adapt the entire romance genre over and over again in different ways while giving you a murder mystery. So you would actually probably really enjoy that. From Black Caravan, which is the horror imprint of Scout, we have Behemoth. This is one of those instances where, because of publishing delays, we got issue 1 a long time ago, and then issue 2 and 3 came out at the same time. So this week in stock technically is issue 2 and 3. This is issue 3 though, so I wanted to bring you the most recent of the story. This is all about a world where a bunch of younger people, they seem to be young adults, have been turned into monsters. And that's their term for it. They are, we've got one who's kind of a wolf man. We've got somebody who's been turned into a giant praying mantis. And our main character has kind of been turning into a crustacean. And we find out over the course of the 3 books that it is a government agency has taken them in with the promise of a cure, only to actually be, as you would expect, training them to become the ultimate weapons. Because if they can control these people who are essentially just monsters, and then they can use them for anything. And so we are at the point now in issue 3 where we see their training has done its job and they are on their first mission. And the government wants them to be completely mindless, but a couple of them seem to maintain their relationships and their ability to communicate with each other. And in this issue, a lot of things change for all of the characters all at once. Trusts are tested, and minds are starting to dwindle, and I love that we get to see that from our main character, who has been narrating for us the whole time. And it's been, and I'm actually trying to find one of her narration bubbles, it's been really clear, clean cut, looks like your standard narration. But when you look in these narration bubbles, they're now handwritten, and it looks like you're struggling to read what it says, and you start to see her words. She's like, what is that word? What does that mean? Or she writes the wrong word. There's a point where she says that they known it, and then she says, knew it. And so we're starting to see her lose the ability to have rational, conscious thinking, and she's worried that she's going to turn into a complete monster. And the things that could push her over that edge are really emotionally well done in this story. So if you haven't picked up Behemoth, you're not really behind, even though it looks like even though 3 issues are out, you're not that far behind, because issues 2 and 3 both came out this week. So you're kind of where everybody else is if you jump in right now. And it's a Black Caravan, but it's actually honestly not as scary as a lot of Black Caravan books can get. It's one of those that the scariest thing that you could possibly imagine is that the government will turn you into a weapon, whether you want to be one or not. So, from Image Comics, we have The Least We Can Do, issue 3, from Eliza Rombali and Yolanda Zandafino, who is one of my favorite creators right now. And this is perfect, honestly, for anybody who's a fan of the Harry Potter kind of story. This is about a young girl who lives in a world where they have all found these power crystals from different things, from coal, from other natural resources, and they use them to fight good or evil, whichever way you go. And this young girl has found a stone that nobody has been able to use in this entire time that they've been in battle. And she goes in issue 1, she goes to the people who are working for the cause of good, and she tells them the whole story, which I love because it gives us the entire backstory of everything going on in the universe. And it's just kind of a complete and total exposition dump. And then it zooms out, and she's in the room full of all of the people who will train her, and they're like, yeah, we already knew all of that. What is it that you want from us? And she's like, oh, I wanted to be trained. My bad. And then we go into the training from there. Well, as you would imagine in a situation like this, our main character is the only person who can't seem to tap into her power. And we find that the stone's kind of, much like the wand chooses the wizard, the stone's supposed to choose you, but she took the stone from someone in a way that's different from everybody else, and she didn't acquire it in the way they're supposed to. And so she hasn't been able to tap into her power. And as we go into issue 3, we see a lot of tension coming between her and other characters, and her and herself, because she feels like she's never going to be able to get the power understandable. And then we hear the backstory of who some of the bad guys are, and I love it. I love where they went with it. This is one of those books when they revealed some of the information at the end. I was like, oh, snap. When does issue 4 come out? I need it immediately. So, honestly, if you are a Harry Potter fan, if you're a fan of any of those coming-of-age stories and falling into your magic, like even something like Wind, this is going to be more of, while it still has kind of younger protagonists, it's almost more new adult because they almost seem more like they're in their 20s and they've all already been in this war for a really long time. And it keeps getting better and better with each issue. And so I love that we're seeing Yolanda on a fantasy book because we get so many books from Yolanda and Eliza that have been those real world stories. And so it's nice to get a fantasy book from them. I'm a big fan. You should check it out. It's issue 3. Still time to catch up before it gets too far in. I definitely think that when you read it, make sure you read slowly because there's a lot, for that issue 1, because there's a lot of lore that comes with her exposition dump. And I ended up going back and like rereading issue 1 before I read issue 2 so I could make sure I remembered all that lore before I got too far into the story. I'm going to take a drink though. That is so good. Oh my gosh. What do you think, Matt?
It's delicious. Very tart. It's tart.
I definitely think that this pairs amazingly with the charcuterie board that I don't have in front of me right now. And so if you are going to get it, make a charcuterie board because that sounds like it would be delicious. And now that's honestly kind of just what I want. I'm like, how do we get that for dinner at midnight when we're done with this? It's probably not going to happen. From Dark Horse Comics, we have issue 3 of Shock Shop. If you haven't jumped into Shock Shop yet, you may not know that it is 2 stories in one. So you get 2 covers, and it does not matter which side you start on because it will tell you when to flip the book over. This is issue 3 of both of the stories, so it's not an anthology. It's just 2 stories that are ongoing within the thing every time. So, I'm going to flip to this side because I like the other story better. So, both stories written by Cullen Bunn, and I think they have different artists, but both stories are written by Cullen Bunn. And honestly, I'm just going to put this up really fast. The girl that runs the Shock Shop, it's like a horror macabre like comic shop essentially. Like it's like kind of like she looks kind of like a Crypt Keeper situation, but she's telling you comics at the same time, and that's my backup plan. And also I really want to just wear her outfit the next time I open the store. But this side of the book is all about a couple that has been having a lot of problems. So their solution is to go on a camping trip, and they make all of their other friends go with them. And I promise you, friends, if Matt and I ever have problems, I'm not going to go on a camping trip to try to fix it. I won't make you do that. But on this camping trip, they end up having some monsters attack them, and now everybody is dying and nobody knows who to trust because the monsters can take on different forms and they never know what's going on. And this couple is like, is this our fault? Did we do this? And it's like, yes, you probably should acknowledge that this might be your fault. And I'm not going to show you anything else because it will spoil everything. But then you flip to the other side of the book and you get a whole different story from Cullen Bunn. And that is the story of a man and a woman who are divorced. And the ex-husband is kind of one of those fathers who they don't really want to let the kids go see. Like the wife's always like, you're not doing, you don't have a job, you don't have anything going on for you. Like I don't really want the kids to come stay with you. And they finally let the kids come stay with him because he moves into a new house. Only thing is the house is haunted by demons. But that works out really well because he's befriended all the demons, and it makes him look really cool with the kids because they think he knows all this magic and stuff. Except now we're in issue 3, and all of the demons have decided that they're on his side and they're on nobody else's side, and anytime he gets angry, the demons react for him. And things are getting worse and worse as the issues go on. And I think that when we get to the next issue, which is the last one for both of these stories, we're going to see some crazy stuff go down. So, honestly, probably the most, this and what is the actual one? Not Tales from the Crypt, but what is the one that has been coming? Creepshow. This and Creepshow have honestly been the 2 most popular books on our bookshelves in the last since they've been coming out. I actually, with this is the only issue of Shock Shop that we have in stock until more copies come in right now for issue 3. We had so many people subscribe to issue 3 that I actually didn't even have any for the wall. So this is one of those books that if you're sleeping on it, you're missing out, because everybody who reads it keeps coming back for more. And everybody said, I love this because it reminds me of Creepshow, and then Creepshow came back, so I also can't keep that in stock. But this is Cullen Bunn. This is at Dark Horse. I know a lot of times we're like, ooh, Cullen Bunn, doesn't necessarily carry the story all the way through to fruition in the way I wanted to, so I'm really excited to see how the ending is going, because so far I'm still completely and totally invested in these stories, and they've been nailing it the whole way through. So grab Shock Shop. It's been great. Up next, from Vault Comics, we have issue 3 of Heart Eyes, which issue 1 of Heart Eyes made it into the picks of the week solely because issue 1 of Heart Eyes takes place in San Antonio, Texas, and as somebody from San Antonio, Texas, I thought it was amazing that I knew where everything in the story was happening. But honestly, the story is just really good, even if you're not from San Antonio. This is the story of Lupe, who is a young girl who, over the course of the last 3 issues, we have learned has the ability to control these monsters. Except maybe she doesn't actually have the ability to control them. And she's kind of a loose cannon, and all of her monsters are now causing a gigantic apocalypse for the entirety of the world. And we start issue 1 already in the middle of the apocalypse, and then we go back and we learn about Lupe and her monsters. And as we fall further and further down the story, you kind of can't tell who is actually in control, Lupe or the monsters, and who's actually the monster. Lupe or the monsters. And in this issue, she is back on her own, and she is traveling around, and she meets a mother who has her kids, and they live in a bus, and they're trying to stay safe, and they are in a spot. They're actually on I-35, which is funny because they talk about how there hasn't been anybody on I-35 in months, and I would absolutely love to see that occasion. But they are living in this bus, and she's worried that somebody is going to come and take her kids, or some monsters or something are going to attack in the middle of it. And Lupe just happens to show up, and she offers to hang out with the kids. And as we know, we don't know if we trust Lupe or not. She's kind of an unreliable main character. And we also see the introduction of another new character who's been watching Lupe for a long time, and we don't know where from or what he's up to. So basically what I'm saying is issue 3 gave me a lot of questions, none of which were answered. And as you can imagine, I just want to read issue 4 immediately because I need to know, is Lupe the bad guy? And is there any control for these monsters since they're in saving the world? And also, do people come back to I-35? These are all things I need to know. If you're from Texas, you understand. But Hard Eyes, this is a vault book. It's amazing. It's one of those that's had a lot of delays as well, and it's kind of slowly been coming out. But honestly, even if it was just for the art, I would recommend this book wholeheartedly, because if you just saw those monsters and those spreads, it's incredible. So grab Hard Eyes. We're only on issue 3. Now's the time. Definitely jump in. Also, issue 3 I actually stacked all the issue 3s together, so I don't know, I'm surprised that it's also issue 3. But from Scout Comics, this is Azza the Barbed, and this has been one of those stories that I have absolutely adored. And issue 3 definitely does not disappoint. Also, can I just point out the fact that Scout actually puts on their barcode the age range that the book is for, which I love. We don't see that from all of the indie presses. And as Scout has a kid and adult and horror lines and things like that, I love that they actually remind us which one's for which. And so this is actually teen friendly, and I definitely think that's true. There are a couple of times when there are some bad words used here and there, but other than that, it's actually a really, really great YA young adult kind of story, because it does follow 2 sisters. One is Azza, who has been marked by the gods with these dark vines. It's more like barbed wire than vine, whereas everybody else in her village has all been marked with, all of the royal people, I guess I should say, have all been marked with these gorgeous marks that signal them as the protectors and the good people of the world. And Azza was marked with barbed wire. So she was outcasted, and she was given one job, which was to defend the place where a demon could escape from, and Azza goes to see her sister get her marks, and in the process the demon escapes and takes over Azza's body, and comes back and wreaks all kinds of havoc on the land. And Azza and her sister are kind of as like working together in a very indirect way, and it's really cool to see. It's a great story of family. It's a great story of just Azza just being amazing. Like, she's like, hey, I've been doing all of this stuff and defending you, and you don't like me just because of how my face looks, and that seems like a really crappy way to treat people. And just because I've got different markings than you, you think that I'm not worthy of being in a part of the family anymore, and that doesn't make any sense. And now look who's the only person who can save you. So really, really good story. I love it. I can't wait to see. There's still more to come, and we're kind of seeing is the idea that Azza could still fall to the dark side, essentially. But she is inhabiting a different body, so things could go completely different, and we have no idea where it's going to go. And the cliffhanger at the end of this issue was really awesome and kind of brought us in even more characters. So if you haven't started Azza the Barb, I highly recommend it. When issue 1 came out, they actually didn't print all of the dialogue. Like the copy that was uploaded for printing was the wrong one, so it didn't have all the speech bubbles on it, and I thought it was this beautiful, like, half silent issue, and then I got to read the issue with all of the dialogue in it, and it got even better. So this has been a great book. I can honestly say I've read issue 1 more than once at this point, and it's one of those where every time it comes out, I'm like, ooh, I just love this book, and I want to go back and read all of it every time because it's been so much fun. So jump in, Scout Comics, Azza the Barb, and also, while I have it up, Scout Comics, last week, we didn't do a shout out, but last week was the 7th anniversary of Scout Comics. So congratulations, Scout. That is incredible for a small press to hit 7 years. And we're super proud. We're super happy to be neighbors with you. They're only about an hour and 15 minutes away. Happy to constantly be just huge supporters and fans of Scout Comics. Congratulations on 7 years, and I can't wait to see the next 7, because you're just getting started as far as I'm concerned with all the things you're throwing out there. We've got a lot of number 2s. So from IDW, we have Godzilla Monsters and Protectors issue 2, and this is volume 2, All Hail the King, which kind of is a gigantic spoiler in the title alone of who our ultimate bad guy is going to be in this volume, because you know, if you're a Godzilla fan, that the king is technically Ghidorah, but also Godzilla at the same time. So I know that this series is automatically going to come down to a battle between Ghidorah and Godzilla, and I don't care. That's what I always want, is to see these two going against each other, and the people kind of trying to figure out who's the ultimate bad guy. But in this series, Monsters and Protectors is the story of a group of kids who actually bond with Godzilla, essentially, and are able to call Godzilla... I love this. I'm sorry. I just really quickly interrupt myself and show you Godzilla's side-eye in this picture is the greatest thing ever. I love Godzilla's little faces, and I love that specifically. Godzilla Monsters and Protectors follows these kids who have bonded with Godzilla, and now they can kind of call on him for protection whenever they need it and bring him to the Earth. So they've worked with him before to save the world, and that included working with Mothra and the twins from Mothra. So if you're a fan of the Godzilla movies, you probably know the twins. But in this issue, they've realized they've already fought Biollante and had to go against that, but now as we go into this series, they realize there may be some more threats, and they're all starting to have these dreams, and the Mothra twins come in and tell them that it's not dreams that they're having, it's that somebody and something are controlling the consciousness of everybody on the planet Earth, and they need to work together to figure out what it is and to stop them, because they realize that those people are probably going to try to awaken the king, the most terrible and ferocious of beasts, and they're very nervous about it. And what I love about this book is it is what I want in a Godzilla story every time. It's actually not about the battle. There's not a single battle in this book. This is all about, hey, this is what all the bad people are doing and how they're affecting the world, and we have to come together as humans, which specifically children humans, to save the world. And in this particular issue, they bring in a new character, And one of the kids says, well, this character shouldn't be here because they're not part of our special group. They haven't saved the world the way we have. And everybody's kind of like, hey, you're being really rude. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm just being honest. And they're like, no, you just told somebody they weren't special because they're not like you. That's kind of the definition of rude. And they have this whole conversation and they teach this other kid what rude means and how it's not okay to assume that somebody isn't special just because you don't think they're like you. And I love that he learns that lesson, and then we learn what makes that kid special. So if you haven't read Godzilla, Monsters, and Protectors, it doesn't matter. You can jump right into this volume with Godzilla, Monsters, and Protectors, All Hail the King. And we do have issues 1 and 2. So if you're a fan of Godzilla, you should definitely read it. And if you have kiddos who are fans of Godzilla, you absolutely need to give them that story because it is so good. All right. So, God, that wine is so good. Okay. Up next, from Image Comics, we have issue 2 of 3 Keys. And I'm going to tell you 2 things about this book. We're going to have 2 separate conversations, I should say, about this story. Number 1 is, what is this book about? Well, the book is actually the story of 3 keys that have the ability to save us from the destruction of, like, our world from being destroyed. And in this world, basically, 3 girls have been given these 3 keys, and it's their responsibility to protect us from things like this, coming from the dark side and destroying our entire world. And this particular story follows one girl and her journey and how she has to fight it. And she's kind of this badass who doesn't really want to listen to her instructor, and she doesn't really want to do what they tell her to, but she is kind of fighting the way she wants to. And, you know, you can kind of even see it on the cover. They're trying to kind of give her an Erica Slaughter edge at some points in the story. And so that part, all really interesting. Really excited about it. And then there's the part of the story that I don't enjoy. And I'm going to tell you that because it is very, very much a thing I need to talk about with this book. So Phil and I brought it up when we talked about issue 1, but I'm actually not going to turn the page just yet because this is the page specifically I want to bring up. So our main character works in a comic book store. And she was hired to work in the comic book store because they tell her that if a hot girl stands behind the counter of a comic book store, that people will specifically just buy comics from her. So her and this other girl work in this comic book store, and all they do is make fun of comic book people the entire time. And they don't like comic books, they don't read comic books, and they think anybody who does is stupid. And it's really, I'm sure, like, some of the stuff I'm like, oh, I like what you're trying to say, I think, but then it goes back to other situations and they just kind of make fun of the comic book industry, and I don't really understand who you're trying to appeal to at that point because you're writing a comic book, so it should be for comic book fans. There is actually a cameo from the characters from The Big Bang Theory specifically in it, looking at the bins, and they make fun of them too. So I really don't know who the target audience of all those jokes is supposed to be, because as a woman who works in a comic book store who has to prove to everybody on a regular basis that I actually do read comic books and that I love comic books and know about every single book on the shelf, and I have to spend a lot of time proving that, I hate that we're perpetuating the rumor that girls in comic book stores are only there to look pretty and make guys buy comics. And also, I don't like how it makes fun of all the dudes in comic book stores, because there are a lot of amazing dudes who love comic books who are not like trolls in basements kind of thing. And so I don't really know who that's going for. And I read a lot of reviews online from a lot of comic book sites, like a lot of comic book fan sites who I wanted to just see what they thought. And they were like, I love the premise of the book, but I don't really know why the book's making fun of us. And it's hard to get past. And it's now done it in 2 different issues, so I don't really know what we're going for here. So honestly, if you've read it and you took it in a different way, I would love to hear that. I'd love to hear from people who are comic book fans who are like, oh, I think it's saying this, because I can see how they might be thinking they're saying one thing, but again, just as a girl in the comic book store, like, I want to have a badass female character. But I also don't think that in order to do that, we need to say that girls don't like comic books. And I think it's very detrimental to our industry for us alone to continue perpetuating that. And the fact that there's a Big Bang cameo in here is funny because I know a lot of people say that they felt like Big Bang perpetuated the idea of making fun of us as well. And we could never tell, like, is it with us or against us kind of thing. And so the fact that this book is using them and then I can't tell if the book is with us or against us is kind of an interesting thing. So I want to hear from people who've read this book. If you've read Three Keys from Image, I would love to hear your opinion. And honestly, like, if you're watching this and you're the creators, I'd love to hear what your opinions were, and what the inclusion is and where that's going to go. Like, is there going to be a point where she learns, like, the comic book people are the people that are there for her or something, and she learns a lesson? I don't know, but I really hope there is. But I think that you might lose your audience before you get there if you keep making fun of comic book fans in your story. So, just wanted to throw that out there. Up next from Image Comics is issue 2 of Dark Ride. I think issue 1 was the pick of the week, and it was, yes, and I honestly was like, this could just be a pick of the week again, but I think since I'm the only one here talking about it, everything's kind of a pick of the week, or not, just depending on what I say. But this book is fantastic. As a Disney fan and a horror fan, this is everything that I could want in a comic book, and in issue 1, we see that this is a theme park for horror fans. And things in issue 1, a young boy starts working at the theme park and he's hugely excited about it, and he goes missing by the end of his first shift. The theme park is kind of suffering, though, we also learn, and so this is issue 2 picks up with the son of essentially the Walt Disney character, kind of explaining how the park needs to do something new. And so he's like, what if we make some animated, like, we have an animated movie that we've considered making for this. Here is the short that we have, and here's some merchandise, and I think we should make comic books, and I think we should do this and that. And the investors and the board of the company are like, yeah, well, what does your dad think? Like, we just want to hear from him. He's got to have something new and exciting. And, his dad is holed up in his castle and doesn't want to do anything. And his sister, who's a famous girl, literally her name is Halloween. They're like, what does Halloween think? She's an influencer. Does she have anybody that she can get to come be a part of things? And so you get this really incredible family dynamic between all of the owners of essentially like the Disney family. But you also get the story of the people who work at the park. And so we see the same girl who works as a groundskeeper training a new person who is the newest person on the block. And she's actually like, I hate theme parks and I hate horror. And they're like, oh, well, you'll probably do great here because everybody who gets really into it like starts to disappear or hate their job. And she's like, interesting. And so there's a lot going on. There's some supernatural craziness going on at the park. And this issue kind of just gave us a whole bunch more layers to everything in it. It gave us a lot of new characters. It gave us a lot more to unpack about each character and who they are and how they relate to the park. This is written by Joshua Williamson, who is the one who just did a 100-issue run on The Flash. That was incredible. And who actually wrote at the back of the first issue that he is a self-proclaimed gigantic Disney fan, horror fan, and fan of abandoned amusement parks. So was the perfect person to take on a project like this, and I cannot wait to see where Dark Ride goes. I think it's going to continue to be one of the top books for us. And if you haven't checked it out, you definitely should, especially while it's still on issue 2. And also, they have these incredible Disney homage variants. So we got the one for issue 1, which was the Tom Whalen Disneyland poster homage for the Dark Ride amusement park. But I think the one for this one got bumped up to a 1 in 25, and it's a VHS Disney variant, which was super cool. Definitely check that out. Also, from Image Comics, issue 2 of Kaya is out this week. This is Wes Craig, who is the artist from Deadly Class, working on this entire story by himself. He's doing the writing and the art. I guess not by himself, because I'm sure he's not. I don't know if he's actually doing the lettering, but he's doing the writing and the art. And this is a story of a young girl whose village has been destroyed. And he's not Jason Ward. He is doing the colors, and Anne World is doing the lettering. See, I knew there was more people on it. This is a young girl who, her village has been destroyed, and the only people left are her and her brother. And she needs to get her brother to the ancients, the ancestors or whatever, who will crown him the king of her place. But in order to do that, they have to go across this massive world. And so they teamed up with a group of lizard people in the first issue who will help them across. Who she's friends with one of the lizards, and they are working to get across this place together. And in this particular issue, we kind of just see a little bit more of their adventure because Kaya and the lizards are doing the hunt for the day, and they kind of, it's just a fun sporting event where they're like, okay, well, if I get the kill, then you owe me this, and if I get the kill, you owe me that. And so we see these little bets going on between them and this fun time as they work together to kind of, and against each other all at the same time, to try to get a food for everybody. And then we get some extra layers added in on the relationship between Kaya and her lizard friend and who they actually are and where their loyalties lie, as well as getting to see a little bit more of her brother coming into his own, which is great because he kind of just seemed like a spoiled brat who was like, I'm the prince, I shouldn't have to do anything. And Kaya's like, well, I'm your sister, and I'm not special, so neither are you. Deal with it. And it's a great relationship. If you are a fan of the relationship of the siblings in We Live, this is going to be another story for you to pick up because it does have that same sibling, big sister taking care of little brother, which I love that we've moved to that relationship. Instead of having it be the little brother taking care of the little sister all the time, we're starting to see a lot of these stories come out where the brother is the little one and the sister is having to take care of them. And I love these older sister stories. It's so great, and we're going to see some really cool monsters and creatures in this book with some great art. So if you haven't picked up Kaya yet, you should definitely pick it up. And honestly, if you look at the back of the book, this is the perfect description of Kaya and her brother at this point. The brother is just sitting there quietly meditating, and Kaya is just with her spear like, I'm going to kill everybody. And that's kind of a perfect description of who the two have become as this has gone on and on. So check out Kaya. Gorgeous art. Jason Werdy's the coloring on it is amazing. Also, issue 2 from AWA Upshot. I feel obligated to take a drink for the old days when we used to have our AWA drinking game. But this is issue 2 of Year 0, Volume 0. This is the first time that Year 0 has not been written by Benjamin Percy. It is actually written by Daniel Kraus, who, if you watch Wind Down Your Weekend, you would know is the writer of The Autumnal, which is the Bat City fan favorite all the time, all day, every day. But Daniel Kraus is also the person who finished George A. Romero's writings when he passed away. So this is a man who knows his zombies. And so he got the opportunity to take over for Benjamin Percy when they decided they wanted to do a prequel. I can't show you that page at all. We're going to go back a little bit. So there we go. That's a safe page. So Year 0 was the story of a zombie outbreak, but we have taken it back to now we are kind of at the beginnings where everything is about the rumors and the information and the misinformation that is given out about a zombie story. And so this follows 4 different groups of people. One of them is a nurse who, when working at a hospital, a family comes in and says there's something wrong with their grandma. And she's like, okay, well, where is she? Let's help her. Let's get her admitted. And they're like, oh, no, you have to come to us because grandma can't leave the house. And they're like, well, she's like, well, I mean, are you sure she's sick? And they're like, well, when she chewed off her foot, we figured there was something wrong with her. And so this nurse goes home with these people and actually is trying to figure out what's wrong with grandma. It also follows a group of flight attendants and pilots as they end up hearing all the information. And what I love about it is they come together in this book, in this particular issue, and they kind of say, you know, for us, we get all of the information because we are the first in line for everything. And they have, I'm not going to be able to show you anything else. They have a dinner where they kind of talk about, like, how do we control who gets this information and what can we do with this information so that we can get it out without losing our jobs, which I've never thought about how much information people on an airline probably hear because they overhear every conversation. And so I love that we get that, because you never really think about the fact that flight attendants probably have more knowledge of everything going on in the world than anybody else. It also follows a brother who, his sister runs a Russian brothel, and he is trying to stop her from doing terrible things. And then it follows a group of South Korean and North Korean soldiers who are working together. They are the border patrol, and in all of these situations, it's all about what information have I got versus what information should I have gotten, and what is going on in the world at the time. And we still don't even have technically a zombie outbreak, but we have the startings of one. And so I love how we get to hear all of these rumors and see what works. And it's really cool because Daniel Kraus said he wrote this at the beginning of COVID, so it was kind of cool to use the way information got out at that time in the same way as like imagining like what would happen and how would we actually deal with a zombie outbreak in our society if we had one. And so really amazing story. If you haven't read Benjamin Percy's Year Zero, the cool thing about AWA is that all of their trades, no matter what, are always $9.99. So if you ever want to go back and read any story from AWA, it's only $10 to jump in on any trade that they have. I'm going to take a drink because I can. And this wine is delicious. If you didn't see the beginning, I'm drinking Campo Viejo, which is a Tempranillo, and it's delicious and very, very spicy. Matt called it tart, which I think is a great description for this. And again, I think it would go great with the charcuterie board, and you should all have one. Up next, issue 2 of Pink Lemonade from Oni Press. This is kind of one of the only titles coming out from Oni Press right now, other than Blink. They are in that process of, they just got bought by Lion Forge, so they're kind of in the process of changing a lot of things up. So I'm glad we didn't lose these stories because they have been really, really good. And Pink Lemonade is the story of a woman who has no idea who she is, and she randomly in issue 1 showed up on her motorcycle and kind of traveled into these people's lives. And in the process, she learned that they were really big fans of a show called, OJ Bot. I think it was OJ Bot, and he was like a giant orange juice robot crime fighter kind of thing from back in the day. And she thought that was super cool, and she wanted to be a hero like OJ Bot. And when she goes off to kind of figure out who she is, she ends up, there's some good pictures of Pink Lemonade on these pages. She ends up accidentally going through a movie set because she thinks that a little boy is losing a balloon, and kind of interacts with the story thinking she's actually stopping a bad guy. And the main actor is kind of a mashup between Dolph Lundgren and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And she's so cool and does all this cool stuff that the footage leaks of her on the set, and they decide, oh, she should be in the movie. And of course the film studio is like, we have to get her to sign a contract to be in the movie. And she's like, I don't want to sign a contract. I don't even know what that means. And ends up getting tricked into signing this contract and being a part of their world, and all because some other random alien being shows up and he interjects his thing. And what I love about it is that he's like, I'm actually just a fan, and I've been watching these movies from space, and I think that I need to interject my opinion into the stories. And the film studio is like, well, we never really let fans determine what we do, but what harm could possibly come from letting fans tell us what to do with our movies? And then the movies implode. So if you want to know what trouble could come from letting your fans dictate everything you do in the movies, that's it. But this is kind of Pink Lemonade battling back against everything when she gets control of the situation. And I love that it's all rainbows and unicorns and finding what makes you happy. And this entire issue is based around that, of whether you know who you are or not, you can figure out what makes you happy in this life. And no matter what anybody tells you, you should, as long as it's not hurting other people, should go for what makes you happy. And you should make that into not only your life choice, but your career choice and everything that you can. Beautiful issue. I love it. And this book is just going to be one of those feel good with weird art stories. I mean, look at this. It's just such eccentric art. But it's such a fun book. And honestly, issue 1 has been was a slow start for us, but now every week I have people coming in and grabbing. They open up Pink Lemonade and they grab it, and it is fastly disappearing at this point. So if you want to jump in on Pink Lemonade, do it soon, because those issue 1s are starting to get noticed, and as people are noticing them, it is flying off the shelves. I haven't seen a person pick up Pink Lemonade and put it back. If that tells you anything about that issue 1 art, it had a lot of amazing double page spreads, and literally everybody that picks it up grabs it. We have some endings this week. Afterschool. This is the horror anthology from Skybound, which is Robert Kirkman's imprint at Image. It's been a 4-part anthology series of horror stories, and honestly, like we talked about earlier, we find out in this book that the scariest thing, because this is the scariest issue so far, that could possibly happen is letting other people control how you think and using you as a weapon. And in this particular issue, it starts out with a teacher who says he was supposed to be a lot of things, and a teacher was never it, and he feels like he can just imagine his dad telling him that he didn't amount to anything, and that his family would just be upset with him, because he's just this giant loser as far as he's concerned. Like, ladies don't like him. Nothing ever works out for him. And he notices that one of the kids on the basketball team kind of feels the same way. His grades are dwindling. He missed the game-winning shot. Nothing's working for him. So his solution is he decides to come up with an after-school club. And the whole thing is just really to kind of inspire students to uplift each other. He thinks he's going to just get them to, if they all feel like they're a part of something, maybe none of them will feel bad about themselves. Maybe none of them will get down when things go wrong. And they'll work together to lift each other up. It gets out of hand very quickly. The students begin to recruit other students. The grades and everything go up in the school, but then people start to die. And things start to go wrong. And you learn very quickly that you cannot speak out against the club. And if you don't have a lifetime membership and loyalty to the club will come for you. And it's all about the way that we can create that mob mentality, and how mob mentality can take over everything. And if we let the mob control everything, it will all come to an end very quickly and very dangerously. And it was a fantastic issue. I love this. This is one of the panels out of the book, and I love this panel because this is the main kid who was a part of helping the teacher create the club, and he has that moment of realization of, this might not have been a great idea, and I don't know how to get out of this situation that we've created. And it's super crazy, classic horror, honestly and truthfully. So if you didn't read Afterschool, they all kind of are. They feel like every genre of horror has been touched on in these 4 issues, and I can't wait to see more from this creative team. And so, that's backwards. Up next, also ending this week, was Code 45 from Scout Comics. This is issue 5, and this is that's labeled Teen Plus. See, I love that, Scout. Thank you. This is a story of a girl who, her uncle got her a job on the Underground, which is like, the London subway. And she is working there on the trains, and it isn't very long before she learns that there is something interesting going on. Every time there's a Code 45, somebody has disappeared, or there might be these monster sightings. And we've talked about this book a lot. We talk about how this book is always very closely leaning on that pick of the week, and how it's one that Phil and I always save for when we need the great book to like uplift all of the books that aren't working for us that week. And we've talked about how this has always led to the idea of maybe there were dragons, and we have the young girl who's been hunting this subway system, trying to figure out if that is in fact the case. And as the story's gone along, we've been on her side, and we've kind of only known what she's known. And every time you think you figure it out, her notes kind of lead us in a different direction. And in this particular issue, she has gone out to hunt for a friend who's gone missing on the tube, and a code 45 has been called, and we find the friend, and the friend kind of points out that she's lost herself because her friends have abandoned her, and she doesn't really know what she has going on. And the girl realizes for the first time if that is the case, that she's kind of abandoned everybody. And in the process of this whole thing, the uncle finally comes back and is there to help them out. And I'm trying really, really hard to avoid anything that will be a spoiler page. And we finally learn what the monsters are and what the situation is and what a code 45 really is in this issue. And what I love about this is not only did it end up being an allegory for the idea of depression and the idea of feeling alone, but Scout actually, this creative team and actually spells it out specifically for you. And they kind of tell you that we build up monsters. We build up everything in our heads so much that we create our own monsters, and our monsters can chase after us to the point where they become real, and that the demons that are chasing us become something that we share with other people, and we can end up bringing not only ourselves but everybody around us down if we let those things become stronger than they need to be. And the way that they get to that point in this book and the way they get out of it in this book is absolutely beautiful. Honestly, truthfully, once again, this should have been a pick of the week. Code 45 just has an incredible story. I highly, highly recommend this book, especially if you are somebody who feels like you're on your own and you feel like you've been investigating and trying to figure out what's wrong with you for a really long time. Or you ever have lost somebody to the situation of feeling like they were alone, whether that's just losing a friend or actually like losing a friend who lost their battle to something like depression. This book did a really great job of handling that and really making a beautiful allegory out of it. So if you didn't read Code 45, highly recommend it. It is completely done now. So you can grab it in single issue form, or you can wait for a trade to come out. If you are looking for a trade when it does come out, let me know. When it comes to indie books, I'm definitely going to order this one, but I might not order enough for everybody that would want one. So if you didn't grab it and you want to make sure you get a copy, let me know. Hey, I want a copy of Code 45 in trade, and I definitely think you do. It's a great look at it's a great use of the urban fantasy, where the fantasy elements are all inside of a city, while also having just this beautiful story. So if you didn't read it, jump in, grab it now in single issues, wait for the trade. Either way, let me know. I'm happy to help you find what you need for that. That's so good. So yummy. All right, some number ones we have this week. I'm not going to show you too much of this one because I don't need to tell you all about this, but Clover Press does a really, really incredible job of doing adaptations of classic literature, and they have taken on the Tragedie of Macbeth, and they're straight adaptations. They are putting the book in comic form. So if you are an educator, this is a great one. This is going to be a great way to share Macbeth with your students to help them understand. This is a black and white comic book that tells the entire story. I mean, it even credits William Shakespeare as the writer. Like, when you go to the credits page and it's like, who wrote this book, it says William Shakespeare. And I love this because the art in this is so perfect for Macbeth. The darkness of it and using the negative space to create the story is absolutely what you should do with a story that's filled with witchcraft and murder and manipulation and, oh my god, look at this, ghost. And if you've never read Macbeth or you did read Macbeth and you were like, I don't understand what I just read, grab this comic. They've been doing a great job at Clover Press with the Great Gatsby adaptation, and so this is another one. And they're super thick because they are giving you a lot of the story at one time. And honestly, seriously, if you're a teacher and you need a copy of the Tragedy of Macbeth for your classroom, let me know. We can get you the single issues, or when it does become a trade, if you're going to need a trade of Macbeth. What was it?
It's only going to be 2 issues.
Yes. So this is the first half of the play. if you need it to help teach your kids Macbeth and your teacher, just shoot us an email. You can email us at contact@batcity.org. And we will help you get copies of this. Or if you're teaching The Great Gatsby and you want copies of that from Clover Press, shoot me a message. It's fantastic. It's beautiful, and it's definitely a great way to understand the play or the book, as the case may be. From Image and Jonathan Luna, this is The Knight and the Lady of Play. This is a one-shot story, and it is all about a knight who is returning home to his wife, and in the process of returning home to his wife, he enters into the woods, and he happens to come upon the lady of the play, who is a witch in the woods. And I'm going to lean into this. I'm trying to find this. Okay. So you have a witch who is taking all of the knights who are trying to return home as her prisoner. And the knight thinks that the only way that he could potentially stop her and get released from her spell is that maybe he could convince her that they could actually legitimately fall in love, and she wouldn't need to manipulate people. And this particular knight tries to figure out a way to make her fall in love, and in hopes that he can release his friends as prisoners. This is, like I said, it's one shot. It's just honestly and truthfully one of those classic folklore stories told in one story. Super quick read, and it is mature. That's why I'm not showing a lot, because there's a lot of nudity from the witch in the woods. As is often the case with the witch in the woods in these stories, there's a lot of nudity and a lot of sex. So if you are not an adult, maybe don't get The Knight and the Lady of Play. From CEX Comics Experience Publishing, we have The Disciple, and this is also a one-shot. However, I felt like this was definitely setting up a universe. Like, I think this is like one of those one-shots where they might be setting up a universe to give us more. However, it could just also be this one-shot. This is the story. This is a very, I want to say neo-noir. I don't know if that's actually even a genre, but if you look at the coloring, it feels like the bright colors of futuristic kind of storytelling, but it's all crime noir, and it uses the crime noir shots. But this is the story of a young girl whose dad was the leader of this temple and taught all of the martial arts in this temple, and he is murdered, and she comes to this detective and ask him, because he was once a student of her dad, he asked him if he can find out what happened to the dad's source book. All of the martial artists all put their specific training tools into a code, and it is saved somewhere specifically. And so this particular instance, she's trying to figure out where it was stolen from when the father was killed or died. We don't really know. And he is out there trying to figure it out, and we see him with his android partner, and we see all of the different stuff, and we get to see him figure out and solve, like, the crime is solved because it is a one-shot. But like I said, the universe is so big. Like, we see so much of who he is. We learn about him as a person. We learn about his android, and yet they keep talking about her past, and she's talking about how, well, I can't look too far into it, because if I look too far into my past, my memory systems just shut down, and I can't go any further. So I really want to see more from these characters. I like him as a detective. I love the android assistant. We solved this particular murder, but honestly and truthfully, if CEX wanted to give us more of this team and give us more mysteries, even if they were just more one-shots and he solved them, I would totally 100% be down. I love this character. I love the story. So, really good. I love what we find out. Much like most crime noirs, you're kind of like, oh, it's probably going to be this, and it's usually pretty close to what you guess. But I like how we get there, and I like the emotional story that we get with this. Really, really great. If you are a fan of something like Good Asian, where you had that classic noir story that brought in some of those other different cultures and things like that. You get a little bit of that in this. You don't get as much of a cultural story as Good Asian was. Good Asian was definitely 100% about the culture, but you do get a little bit of it brought in, and then you also get that futuristic stuff. So again, not sure if you want to call it a futuristic story or a crime noir story, but I'm just making up a new genre and calling it neo-noir, and so if that's already a genre, great. But that's kind of how this feels. Bright colors in a noir world. Up next, up next we have the official comic book of Christmas. It's literally labeled that, so I'm going to call it that. But this is Betty and Veronica's Christmas issue. This is a one-shot from Archie Comics. And if you've ever read any of these Christmas issues from Archie Comics, you know that you get a new story in the beginning and then repeats of some of the fan favorites and different stories from the digest throughout time. And Matt is, I'm going to have to not spoil this. I don't think you actually read it. But the title of this year's story is Magi Help You. Because if you're a fan of Archie, you know that a lot of times in the Archie stories, especially the holiday ones, they like to take the classic holiday stories and turn them into Archie stories. And I love it because they always explain the actual story that they're taking it from to tell you. And so in this particular story, Betty is wanting to get a really great gift for Veronica because she's been a great friend that year, but she doesn't have the money to buy what she wants for Veronica. So she decides the best thing she can do is to sell her sewing machine. And the friend that she's shopping with says, but Betty, if you sell your sewing machine, how will you make your dress for Veronica's upcoming Christmas or New Year's Eve party that you wanted to make a new dress for? And Veronica thinks, oh, I know Betty wants to make a new dress for my party, so she buys Betty the fabric for the dress that Betty wouldn't be able to afford. And of course they have it's Magi Help You, so you have a gift of the Magi kind of story. And they realize that they both got something that the other can't use. But it's really cute because there's extra friends, so you get an extra cute little part to the story. And then you have the backup stories, so you have one about Veronica planting mistletoe all around her house, but every time Betty ends up underneath it with Archie, Veronica pulls the mistletoe down before Betty can get to kiss Archie. And a good little twist in that one. And then you have, this is about Santa Claus. Veronica, I was like, what was the next story? Veronica and Betty decide to build a snowman, and Veronica tells Betty instead of putting clothes on the snowman, they're going to dye the snow all the colors for all the other parts of the snowman, and then the snowman melts because it gets too hot, and Archie and Veronica's dad think that aliens have come down and left red snow in the yard, and it creates this whole conspiracy around the town, and everybody panics, which is super funny. And then you get a story about Betty, who decides that she thinks that Christmas is going too well. The Christmas season's going too well. Everybody's too happy. She's too happy. So something bad must happen. And she keeps telling all of her friends that something bad is definitely going to happen. And she comes up with all the possibilities of what could happen. And ends up, she talks herself, in the process of talking to them, she talks herself out of all the negative feelings. And of course, that leads them to having the negative feelings. Once again, reiterating the message of this week's comic books, which is that if you let other people control your thoughts, we can end up in a world of a mass mob of negative opinions. Then you get some one-shots at the end that would have been little vignettes in the digest, which are absolutely great. So if you are a fan of Archie Comics or the holidays, if you're a fan of holidays, you should be a fan of Archie Comics. But if you're a fan of Archie, you definitely need to grab this.
And Friends.
And Friendship, that's true.
The show.
Oh, the show Friends?
If you like the show Friends, you would really like Betty and Veronica comics.
That's a good point. I've never really thought about that, but they do have all the, friend drama and all the... Oh, I'm gonna break stuff. They have all the friend drama and the, the hijinks and stuff. So it does kind of feel like the classic sitcom whenever you read an Archie comic, but at all ages friendly. Up next from Whatnot Publishing, we have issue 1 of Ninja Funk, and it has this great David Mack cover, which is honestly and truthfully my favorite part of the entire book, that you get this incredibly cool David Mack cover. This is the story of, sorry, I didn't let you see it. This is actually the story of a band that is a robot, like a TV robot, kind of like you see in Saga, and a wolf who's kind of like a cyborg wolf, and an actual cat. And they are going to save the entire world because the world is offbeat. And they are convinced that the world is offbeat, so they are going to have a concert. And in their concert, they are going to put the world back in rhythm. And their whole goal is kind of just to build this concert that brings enough people to it that they can do that. And then you get some bad guys who are trying to stop them, and they have to battle against them. And at the end of the day, everything comes down to whether or not the cat can do more than just poop everywhere, and can save the day. And I can't tell you whether or not they saved the day. They might have made things worse. They might have made it better, but they try to believe that there's a little bit of hope lying around the corner. So, crazy eccentric art. So if you're one of those who's like, I love it when the art is all over the place and has like these weird things, you're going to love this book. And it really like focuses on all of that crazy, strange art. But this is the second book from Whatnot Publishing. The third one is coming up soon. So, if you are like, ooh, Whatnot, I'll buy comics on there. This is a great way to see what they're coming up with on their own. Up next from Image, we've got Two Graves, #1. And Matt, did you end up reading this? I saw you pick it up off the wall. Yeah. Great. I had no idea what this was about. I completely forgot what this little sit was when I grabbed it. But this is essentially the story of a young girl whose friend has died, and she goes out into a random restaurant and a diner, and she gets picked up and by some guy who offers to take her somewhere. And she knows that he's a serial killer, and she's going to kind of take care of that with the help of a friend that she has who seems to be some kind of agent of death. He mentions working with Persephone and for her and Lord Hades and all of those things, and I can't show that page necessarily, but I was like, it's not really that bad, but I don't know how far Facebook's going to take the stuff that I show. But so this is her. We kind of get a little information on his backstory, but we're still not 100% sure on if he's a good guy or a bad guy. And I like that he's kind of narrating the situation and is like, whatever happens to this girl, it's kind of on me at this point, but she's not going to make it. So it's one of those where he's telling us at the beginning of the story, like, she's not going to make it. And she's kind of telling us, like, I don't know if he's going to make it, and I don't know where he came from, and I don't know if this is going to work out, but I'm just along for the ride. And so all of it is just that she wants to get to a point where she can dump her mother's ashes in a place that she thinks that her mom would have enjoyed. And along the way, she's going to help him with his deathly duties. I feel like it's going to end up being a really beautiful story that kind of goes between these two characters. This girl who really wants to assist death, and this person who actually does assist death, who doesn't really necessarily want to be in there. I think we're going to get a really cool dichotomy of these two characters as they both figure out who they are and what they want, not just from each other, but from their lives in general. And if the Hades and Persephone story kind of comes into play a little bit along the way, I think it'll be a really cool way to use that mythology in a modern story. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts, Matt, since you read it? No? It was like I was really curious what you thought, and I totally forgot to ask you before the stream. So, up next, also from Image, this is issue 1 of 5 of Gospel. And this is a story about a couple of people who live in a village who are working to tell the stories. It's honestly at the time when the Bible is being translated into English for the first time. And they kind of have the conversation about whoever is writing the story can tell the story how they want to. And they talk about specifically their own stories. So it starts with a man retelling a story about a boar. That boar rammed his way through a town, and the great knight Matilde who saved everybody from there. And this gentleman comes up to him later and says that's not exactly how the story went, but anybody who writes the story can tell the story how they want to, and oral history and written history both have the ability to change as we tell stories. And he's like, how would you know? And he's like, well, I'm the man who wrote the story. And it goes back in time, and we see him as a young boy, and we see Matilde actually just kind of upset a pig in a shop, and she's like, destroys everything in the village, and she's like, you have to rewrite the story to where it sounds like I saved the village. And he's like, why would I do that? And she's like, because the people need something to believe in, and right now they're not really sure about what they believe in because everything's being translated into these different forms, and stories are changing, and they're not really sure about stuff. And he's like, I can't do that. That's not really my job. My job is to tell things how they happen. And she's like, is it? Or is your job to give the people hope? Is that not what the gospel's about? And if you know, the word gospel in Greek actually means truth. And is all about, that's the whole point, is that you're supposed to spread truth. And she's like, nope, I don't necessarily think it's about us spreading truth. I think that it's about us creating stories that make people believe that they need to be better people, and that there is something out there that is looking out for them, whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's something bigger than us. And he says that he's trying to just get his role within the church. And she's like, well, our priest in our town isn't going to be here much longer, and which would you rather have, the station or the freedom to actually make change? And in the process, we see that she's come up with a plan that she thinks will create a situation that the people will have to believe in, but somebody beats her to her fake disaster by creating a real one. And we're going to see how that plays out as issue 2 comes in. So this is issue 1 of 5. I'm very excited to see where the story goes, because I think it's going to give us a lot of really cool narrative and a lot of really cool conversations. And I think that these characters are just really going to grow into some interesting stuff. And also, how is this character still alive in the future to tell us all these stories is another question I have, and something I want to see play out. So if you didn't grab Gospel, issue 1 is out this week. It's a great time to kind of see where it's going to go. Up next from Opus Comics. This is technically, I believe, considered a one-shot, but I swear to God, Opus, if this is the only one of these you give me, I'm going to cry. This is Monsters of Metal, issue 1, possibly issue 1 shot. Don't really know. Opus, seriously, this is, of all the books that you're giving me, please don't let this be a 1 shot of this particular book, because I need more. This is kind of Universal Monsters starting a rock band. And it's got the Bride of Frankenstein on keytar, the Wolfman on drums, a jack-o'-lantern dude on guitar, actual guitar, Frankenstein's monster on bass, and Medusa is the lead singer. And they have started this band, and they're not very good. And then they decide to kind of lean into the monstrous of it all. And so they like attack people, they go like full punk rock, and they start like attacking people at their concerts, and they do all this stuff, and they end up getting a huge following. And their buddy Dracula awakens because he thinks that their music is god awful, and they're using his castle as a place to practice. And he wakes up and he's like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. Like, humans can't know monsters exist. And they're like, yeah, well, they think it's kind of like our gimmick. They don't really think that we're monsters. And then they end up in a battle with Van Helsing, who gets bumped from a headliner to their open act. The Mummy comes back and decides that he has to put them in their place because they're exposing monsters to the world. So you get like Emotep essentially involved. And again, oversized issue, possibly a one-shot. Please let this just be the opening of a new world. We've got all of these bands making comics at Opus, and all I really want is more of Monsters of Metal. It's so good. It's got all of the cheesy dialogue, but I love it because the whole time Frankenstein's monster keeps going to the bride, and he's like, we should be together. You were literally created for me. And she's like, yeah, by the same man with the same parts. So we're basically siblings because we have the same dad. And, like, I'm pretty sure that we have the same body, that, like, your legs are where my arms came from. Like, that's gross, dude. I don't want to be a part of that. And he's like, no, you're supposed to be made for me. We're, like, under. And she's like, no, it's like dating myself. I don't want to do it. I love this book so much. It is so cheesy and so wonderful. And if you know me, you know that I don't care how cheesy Universal Monster stuff gets. I just want more of it every time. And I love the inclusion of Medusa more and more into these classic monster stories because I think she's super cool. And there's like a scene in here where one of the people is like, I'm pretty sure that her snakes are fake. And it's like, what? Like, it's so great. I love it. Monsters of Mayhem. There was a cover for Monsters of Metal, sorry. And there's a cover for every single one of the monsters. The Bride of Frankenstein one is just my favorite because I want so badly to have the Bride of Frankenstein's hair. She's the coolest. Up next, from Ablaze Comics, we have issue 1 of Traveling to Mars from Mark Russell, who, if you know me, you know that that is one of my top 5 favorite comic creators, probably of all time. I love Mark Russell so much, and this is another reason why I will forever love Mark Russell in this book. This is the story of a man who self-proclaimed not worth anything man. Another one of those stories actually where he talks about how his parents would think his dad thought he was worthless. His dad was actually obsessed with obituaries and was always like, you have to do something in your life worth getting a good obituary for. And in the process of all of his life, he ends up with this rare cancer that can't be cured. And at the same time, we completely damage all of our resources on the planet Earth. And they find out, one of the rovers on Mars finds out that Mars has this pocket of oil, essentially. And we need it to run everything on Earth. And nobody has ever landed on Mars, so nobody has claim to Mars. So everybody is suddenly trying to get to Mars first, because whoever gets there first gets to claim all the oil and will be the superpower of Earth forever. So they know that it's kind of a one-way mission, so they hunt down a man who won't need to come back. And since he has this cancer that won't be curable, they send him out to Mars, and this is his story of him kind of going to Mars, kind of dealing with his own issues in and of his life, and everything that is going to happen within that. And it's Mark Russell, so you know it's going to be a great commentary on humanity. It's going to be a beautiful story, and it's going to be fantastic the whole way through. Issue 1, great start, absolutely love it. I'm not a sci-fi person, really. Like, a lot of the sci-fi stuff loses me because it's just not my genre normally, but I was like, oh, it's Mark Russell, I'm gonna love it either way, and I do. And I love this character. I love how flawed he is. I love how he doesn't think about a lot of the things when he signs up for the mission. Like, there's a point where he's like, I hate to point out that this is the first time I realized I had no idea who hired me to go to space, and kind of throws it in there, and he's like, oh, turns out big corporation that hired me is actually this one, and different things like that. He just along the way is like, turns out this is the first time I thought about this. I would like to point out that I am not a smart man, and they probably should not be sending me to space. And he kind of just gives you that information, and I love that because we do get this realistic human approach to, I am not sure if I'm saving the world or just helping like another corporation take over something they don't need to have. Love it. Mark Russell, once again, nails it with this story. And Traveling to Mars is going to be a great one that you're not going to want to miss. Last, number 1, that's not my pick of the week, but could have been, just like Traveling to Mars, could have also been in the picks of the week, is Killchella #1 from Scout Comics. This is a fantastic murder story. Honestly, this is like another murder mystery book. This is, it opens up in a really cool way. It opens up with a couple who is on a trip, and they ask somebody to take a picture of them. And then they end up going out into the woods, and they're so excited, and while they're out there, they run into the same person again, and that person is kind of a murderer. And you think that's what the story's about, and then it picks up with an entirely different group of people who are a group of friends who have all come to Coachella for the music festival. And they're one of their friends has become a famous person. She's kind of become a big influencer, and so she's rented this hotel, and she got all of the rooms except for one. And so at the hotel is one other person staying there, and they're all very excited about how Coachella is going to go for them, and they're all there to see this one act. Everybody's super excited about the first time that they're going to see this person perform in a long time. And things happen. Like, we kind of get, honestly, we get a lot of just really good setup of who these characters are. You get this eerie feeling the whole time. You wonder why the murderer situation, like how it's going to connect. And we don't actually even make it to the festival yet. You just get that classic setup of, hey, everybody, like, we're here, and this is the way the group dynamic works. This is how so-and-so is dating who, and this is how these people used to be best friends but aren't, and all that kind of situation. And then we get some teasers into what is going to actually happen towards the end of the book. Great setup for a great story. I can't wait to see where the rest of the story goes, because it's not going to be necessarily just a slasher book. It feels like it could be at the beginning, and then it kind of brings us into another one of those situations of how far will you go for your fandom. I'm really excited. Killchella is going to be great, and that is issue 1. And it's Scout, so we'll probably have a little bit of a lull between issue 1 and issue 2, so it'll give you some time to catch up if you didn't grab issue 1 this week. It'll give you a chance to grab issue 1 before issue 2 comes out. Usually they have, like, a longer time period. Most publishers have like 1 month, 3 weeks to 1 month before the next issue comes out, and Scout kind of gives you closer to 2 months so that you have some time to jump in and figure out, is this a book that I want to get to? I have, and gives you that time where it's like, oh, this week I only have 2 books to pick up. Maybe I'll try Killchella. Definitely if that's this next week for you and you don't have as many books, or if it's the week of Thanksgiving where maybe less books come out, I think that's Killchella is definitely one I would go back and grab if you're a fan of horror books. All right, I have 2 major picks of the week. I feel like half of those books I said could have been picks of the week, and they probably would have been if I thought about it. Really, they all could have been. There was too many books this week that I was like, I love this book. And usually I wait and let Phil kind of like add in to like, oh, this could be a pick of the week. But without Phil being here, I was like, I will make everything a pick of the week without Phil being here. So I'm only going to give myself 2. So I narrowed it down before I even, to 2 before I ever even decided what the picks of the week were going to be. So I only picked 2. And one of them is kind of a shout out to Wednesday Phil, since he couldn't be here, but also just a gorgeous book, and it is from Red 5's Stonebot imprint. This is issue 2 of Mega, The Rise of the Black Swan. Earlier this year, if you've been watching the show for a long time, you know that at the beginning of this year when Mega first came out, Wednesday Phil said he was calling this like his pick of the year. Just based on the art alone, and I was like, the story is also incredible, and now we are on volume 2 of this story, and it is still just as fantastic as it was at the beginning. I actually read issue 1 and 2 today because I fell behind and missed issue 1. But this is, can I start with some kaiju? This is a kaiju story that is all about Mega, who's kind of the Godzilla of the situation. He's the kaiju that you can count on to come in and protect people. And it is a story of a young girl and her dad and her grandfather. And in volume 1, the grandfather has gone missing. but the little girl keeps hearing from him in her dreams, and he is telling her that she needs to be mindful of all of these kaiju that are rising up, and that the guardians will help her if she blows a special horn that she's given by him. And in volume 1, the dad's kind of like, oh, why are you the only chosen one? Why is your grandfather talking to you? But at least he believes her after a while. And in this, oh my gosh, I'm trying to find, there's some incredible pictures in here. In this volume, we meet a boy who was actually on the expedition with the grandfather when the grandfather went missing and was sent back because he felt ill. And we immediately learn all of the weird things, the weird behind the scenes stuff with this boy and his connection to these kaiju and his potential threat to the family. And I'm trying to find just one of these absolutely like incredible, gorgeous kaiju moments. But I love this little girl. I love that she has this strong belief that anything and everything could be wonderful at any time. And I love the dynamic between her and her dad. I love the dynamic between her and her grandfather. And I love the dynamic between her and the kaijus. There's just, I'm like flipping through there, and they're all beautiful. I don't know where to start. But the longer the story goes on, the more kaijus actually come out of where they've been hiding, and the more battles there are. And Mega sees some threats for the first time in this issue that he can't necessarily contain. This is a fantastic story. Beautiful, beautiful family story. Incredible artwork. If you haven't read it yet, grab volume 1 and then jump into volume 2. It was 3 issues for volume 1, and so this volume will probably be 3 issues as well. And they're larger than comic books. They're almost like trade paperbacks, like mini little trades in and of themselves. But they're thick and beautiful, and they have this incredible kaiju artwork. So if you're a fan of kaijus and you haven't read Mega, you are missing out on an incredible opportunity. Grab it immediately. And then my completely unbiased opinion of Boom Studios Specs #1 as my pick of the week. Completely and totally unbiased, because it definitely has David Booher, who is the writer of Kanto, which is one of my all-time favorite comics, and Press Shann, one of my favorite artists, working together on a horror book for Boom Studios, and that alone could be reason to make this my pick of the week. And really is. And then there's this great, amazing thing. This is actually the Press Shann cover, but this is the story of 2 kids who, I'm going to show this page because it's the perfect illustration of what's happening. These are 2 kids who are reading some comic books, and they're older comic books, and they see one of those ads for those special glasses. You put these glasses on and you can make a wish, and anything you wish for will suddenly appear. And they think, gosh, this is stupid, and nobody's ever going to believe that. But then we see their lives are kind of hard. And within their lives, they've got bullies, and the one kid has day-to-day bullies, and the other kid has real-life bullies, and that the principal treats him terrible, and the people of the community treat him terrible. And side note, reason why it's my unbiased opinion, Matt, you will not be able to zoom in close enough on this, but
push it forward and kind of hold it up.
There is, in the bottom panel where the fight is happening, on the lockers in the background, is actually the Bat City Comics sticker. One of our oldest stickers is actually on the lockers in the background behind them fighting.
Over his shoulder, right?
Yes, over his shoulder next to the kid that's actually watching on. You can see our silver circular oval Bat City Comics sticker on the lockers, which is super incredible. And that was an Easter egg from Press Shann, who we love. They are an incredible artist. They are also an incredible friend, and they added that in there, and I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit when they told me. But these 2 kids decide that the only thing that they should probably order these glasses. And when neither one of them actually do it, because they both think it's also ridiculous at the same time, so in the middle of the night, the glasses show up, and nobody knows who ordered them, and nobody knows where they came from. But they figure, why not give them a try? They showed up. Maybe we should do it. And so they put the glasses on and they start making wishes. And they soon learn that they can make small wishes, but they can't make large wishes. And they'll come to fruition in some capacity or another. And I love it because there's actually a scene where the student is like, years later in college, I studied the monkey's paw, the story that warned you to be careful what you wish for. But that wasn't until way later, after we had used these glasses for years and made terrible decisions with our lives. I cannot wait to see where this goes. This sets up some really, really cool, like, missing persons, bad decision making, all kinds of crazy stuff happening. If you are a fan of Press Shann's art, you're going to love this book, because Chris does this really great thing where they give you all these hints towards what's going to happen within the art, but also leave you feeling creeped out all along the way. So this is another one of those great instances where Chris's art tells a story in and of itself. But then you also add David Brewer, who, again, one of my favorite writers. I think Canto is one of the most beautiful fairy tales ever written. And you add that writing style into this book at the same time, telling us essentially another classic story with the monkey's paw, but in a modern way, and you just get an absolutely fantastic story. You're gonna regret it if you don't pick it up. There's a reason why this book is at Boom. Boom always looks for some of the most incredible stories, and they are definitely finding it in here in Specs. I cannot wait. This is a book that when Chris first told us about it, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And it does not disappoint. Definitely one of my two of my favorite creators coming together to make one of my favorite creative teams. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be creepy. It's going to be great. And it's definitely going to have a really good moral buried somewhere in there. And what?
And a Bat City homage.
And a Bat City homage, which is why it's my completely unbiased opinion, because you get that Easter egg for Bat City. So thank you, Chris, for all your continued love and support. While we're talking about Chris, this week I had somebody talking to me at the counter, and we have Sybil's original artwork piece from the autumnal. Actually, and Chris, you don't even know this, but it's actually Sybil's artwork is actually hanging by our register here, and Chris gave us this art piece that they made that's supposed to be Sybil's, and somebody goes, that is the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. What is that? And I was like, well, here, let me show you the autumnal. And I'm telling him about the autumnal while I'm flipping through, and I'm like, oh, so this is the art piece that the child draws in there. And they were like, and you recreated it? And I was like, actually, no, this is how the creator made the piece. And I told the whole story about how Chris created it. And then I was like, and then Chris gifted this to us for our support of the autumnal, and Matt and I cried. And so the person that was shopping was like, well, can I see this book? And of course, we once again are almost completely out of the autumnal because we have a problem, and we love the autumnal on an ungodly level of muchness. And if you haven't read it yet, what are you doing with your life? Grab a copy of the autumnal, read it. I doubt it's still on sale for while it was on sale on Comixology. Go to a comic book store near you and pick up the autumnal. It's fantastic. You're going to want it in print no matter how you read it, because you're going to want to scour through all of Chris's artwork to see all the little details. It's fantastic. I love it. It's amazing. And again, thank you, Chris, for all your love and support. If you just buy everything Chris does, and because they're wonderful. Oh my gosh, so is that wine. Yes. Oh, hi, Tom. Tom says hi. And Ram says Chris did a great job on his artwork. Yes, they are incredible and do incredible arts in all capacities. If you ever have a chance to buy an original piece of artwork from Chris, do yourself a favor and do it. We had Chris out for the House of Slaughter issue 1 launch, and they did these sketches that were the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen in my life, and severely undercharged for all of the incredible work that they did. Love it. And thank you for being supportive of Bat City. We've got a lot of books in stock this week that will make you question what year we're in. So I'm going to put all of them to the side so we can talk about all of that at one time. But first up, from IDW, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Armageddon Game, The Alliance. Woo! That is a title. So TMNT has an event, The Armageddon Game, going on. This is a tie-in for The Alliance. This is issue 1 of that. Radiant Black is back again with issue 19. This is a fantastic series from Image Comics and Kyle Higgins, and that's led us to an entire, Radiant universe. I guess it's called the, Supermassive Verse. From Batman World, we've got Batman Urban Legends. This is issue 21. The new story in it is actually a Michael Cho story that's kind of like a speed racer story. I'm going to show you the art because I have to. It's a speed racer style story from Michael Cho. I was trying to see if I could find any of the cars and stuff, but it's so cool. If you like Michael Cho's art, you definitely want to see this story because it's awesome. And then you get some of those repeating stories that come in Batman Urban Legends. Out this week, this is Ryan North and Alex Ross Fantastic Four #1. I do have more copies of this cover, the cover A, on order, because we're out of the cover A's, but we do have a couple of the different variants left in stock. This is the only cover A that I have at the moment, but I have one more out of the order that I did left up for grabs, so there'll be about 2 up of the cover A for that issue, and I've heard so many great and wonderful things this week. Maybe I only have one a bit. I don't know. Ninja Kaiden issue 4 from Black Box Comics. This is a great story about a young boy or a young man whose father passes away, and he uses a ninja-style suit and training to work with ghosts to solve some mysteries. End After End issue 3 from Vault Comics. If you were ever sucked into a world like the kind you would play in a D&D universe and suddenly had to live in that world and fight those battles, that is what this story is. Minor Threats issue 3. This is Patton Oswalt's new book with Dark Horse. It's all about the sidekick, essentially the Robin kind of character to a Superman kind of character, is killed, and all the villains are getting blamed for it. So all the D-list level villains have come together to kind of try to solve the mystery so the superheroes will stop losing their minds and killing villains. Starhinge issue 5. This is Liam Sharp writing and doing the art on it. I'm going to show you some of that art because everybody who sees the art freaks out, and I love this. There's some double-page spreads in here. This is the story of King Arthur and Merlin as if it was a sci-fi fantasy combo story. So it's super crazy, very high fantasy, very high sci-fi, very high level art, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Cities of Magic, issue 5 from Scout. I believe this is the wrap-up of City of Magics, and we've got 2 cities that are warring and a young person who is stuck in between those wars and kind of trying to figure it out. This actually, we were talking about Scout putting labels on it. What are you...
Is it Chicago?
Yeah, it's Chicago and New York. Yeah. Chicago and New York are the 2 warring cities that have magic.
Chicago cover.
Yep, Chicago cover. And we were talking about Scout putting warnings on it. This one actually is labeled parental advisory, which is super cool that they give you that option. But yeah, this is the Chicago city. So there you go. If you are into fantasy, that book was actually really, really good. Spider-Man The Lost Hunt. Oh man, I ruined it. Okay, we're gonna talk about all my 90s comics right now. Spider-Man The Lost Hunt, because Kraven is on another hunt, or Kraven's child possibly. Let's just go 90s. We've got Wonder Woman 793 with her 90s homage cover. We've got hang on, I'm sorting them now so that I can do this. There's another one somewhere in here. I don't know where it is. We have an I Am Batman cover in here that I want to show you that goes with all of these. Okay, we'll go there. Wildcats is back, and while you could have this great grifter cover, you can also get an embossed foil cover for Wildcats. So Wildcats are back. Let's just start there. That alone is 90s enough. But now we have Grifter and foil embossed covers back for you. And we also have Batman Incorporated, another 90s title, back with a foil embossed cover this week. And we've got I Am Batman with a 90s homage cover. And then we've got, let's just really do this. Let's go for it. We've got the 30th anniversary of the Death of Superman out this week. This is a special edition. It's got some stories in here from every single person on the creative team has a story in here. We also have a 30th anniversary reprint of Superman 75, The Death of Superman. Honestly, one of the most requested books this week. Everybody got really excited about it. This is one of the most requested books I just dropped. I'm sorry. But this is The Death of Superman is back. I had a guy who said he'd never read it this week and wanted to know if he should grab the 30th anniversary. I told him I had both options. He could grab the original or the 30th for the same price. But 30th anniversary of Superman, I laughed. I took a picture this week. Was like, oh, we have The Death of Superman. Wildcats are back. We've got all these Batman Incorporated embossed covers. We've got these 90s homage covers. So I literally sent a picture on Snapchat and was like, what year is it? And I had all these people trying to guess, like 1992, 1994. I thought it was great. And then I decided I was going to wear my Blue Barracudas Legend of the Hidden Temple shirt to go with the fact that we're talking about 1992 to 1994. I had to wear the perfect game show from that shirt. I don't know. That could go either way. Legend of the Hidden Temple was great, but Guts was also a great 90s game show. So I want to know, if you had the choice and you could be on either game show, would you prefer to be on Legends of the Hidden Temple or would you prefer to be on Guts? Those are your options. We also have, speaking of 90s, Blood Syndicate is back this week with a new issue. I think it's issue 6. We've got Sabretooth and the Exiles, issue 1. So we got a new Sabretooth series launching right now. Damage Control issue 4 from Marvel Comics is out this week. This has been a series that a lot of people have been like, ooh, Damage Control, that's exciting. Artist Elite issue 4. This is a new group of artists coming together to create their own publishing company, much like Image did 30 years ago. We've got the new Golden Age, issue 1 from Jeff Johns. This is the one-shot that will lead into all of the new characters that Jeff Johns is creating at DC. You would be on the Tales from the Crypt Legends of the Hidden Temple Lake show. What was that?
It was called Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House from 1996.
What?
And the Crypt Keeper narrated it, and people fell off of bridges that swung around, and there were big foam things for them to run into, and they had to wear helmets.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it was amazing. It has a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It's highly received.
Oh, yeah. And Ram says Guts was a game show back on Nickelodeon in the 1990s. It was kind of like American Gladiator for kids. And you had to do all these different challenges, kind of like American Gladiator, but then the last thing was you had to climb the crag, which was like this giant foam mountain, and stuff would come out at you, and like obstacles like you had to travel through. And then if you there was like confetti cannons that would just like pop off in front of these kids, and it's like, I don't know if that's safe, but here we are. And I definitely wanted to do that, but I always wanted to do Legends of the Hidden Temple. For sure, too. Star Trek is back with a one-shot about Trill. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you probably want to pick that up. Skull Kickers is on their 10th anniversary special. So if you are a fan of Skull Kickers, they are celebrating 10 years. Dark Interlude is back from Vault Comics with issue 5. Popstar Assassin is back with a new volume. So if you never read Popstar Assassin, jump back and catch that Behemoth story from earlier this year. But we are on volume 2 now.
And it's Sumerian now.
It's Sumerian now, right. But back in the old days, it was Behemoth, but we're Sumerian now. Unnatural is back with a new series called Blue Blood, and this is issue 4 of Mirka and Dolfo's series. So if you're Mirka and Doffo fans, this is the time. Save that for last. Multiversity, part of my 90s throwback moment. Multiversity's Teen Justice issue 6 is out this week. I already did this. Just bring it in. Other things we got out this week. Avengers at issue 62. Everybody keeps saying, why is DC going back to the 90s? Marvel is too. They're just calling it Extreme Month at Marvel. So there are extreme variants for all of your Marvel comics, and a lot of them are actually done by Liefeld. So we are really throwing it back to the 90s. Captain America Centennial of Liberty issue 6 is out. This is, I believe this is, the Centennial of Liberty is the Steve one, and then we have Symbol of Truth, which I believe is the Sam story. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue 6 of 7. We're going to see the wrap-up of that, and then we're going to see a couple of one-shots that come out to tell us a little bit more of the story before it ends. The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive. This is issue 3 of 3 of the movie tie-in for a movie that I believe is now officially canceled. So if you want to know what was going to happen in that movie, I guess buy the 3 issues of this comic, because that might be all you ever see of it. Ghost Rider issue 8 is out today, this week, so make sure you grab your Ghost Rider. That's your Extreme Ghost Rider variant as well. Moon Knight issue 17 is out. We've got Marauders issue 8 of the Steve Orlando Marauders team, which is always cool. Spawn issue 335 is out. We are about to see a very big celebration of Spawn, so we're going to get a Batman Spawn one shot again, much like we had in the 90s, but then both DC is going to be doing Spawn covers in honor of the Batman Spawn crossover. We're going to see every DC title is going to have a Spawn cover, and then so is almost every single Image comic, because we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Image, which means we're also celebrating the 30th anniversary of Spawn. So if you are a Spawn fan, you are about to have a whole lot of covers to collect. So let me know which ones you want. Let your LCS know, because we've been ordering them like crazy. This week, both DC and Image already had a lot of them on orders. So there's some crazy cool ones. Honestly and truthfully, I was like, oh man, like even seeing Wonder Woman with Spawn, like all these different characters at DC was super cool. But then a lot of there's a Walking Dead Spawn cover, which I know is 2 huge fandoms, so you're going to want to get those and celebrate that. Amazing Spider-Man issue 13 is out this week, and the next issue is going to be that first appearance of Hallows Eve, who is automatically my new favorite Marvel character because of her name and design. We've got Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 17 out this week, and this is another one of those 90s homage covers with him at the mall. We've got Star Wars Bounty Hunters issue 28. We've got Transformers, the best of Shockwave. I honestly am not going to lie, this is the one I ordered the most of, because I know everybody loves Shockwave. But this is going to include like 7 or 8 different issues of all of Shockwave's good stories. So if you get like modern and old school books mixed in together, which I love so much about that. So great. If you're a fan of Transformers, this is your chance to read all the best stories of Shockwave. Venom issue 13 is out this week. We've got Wolverine issue 27, Legion of X issue 7. We've got Judgment Day issue Omega. This is the end of the Judgment Day storyline. And this incredible Peach Momoko cover, which I love, with the little Scarlet Witch being so cute with Jubilee. Like, I don't even care who else is on the cover. You got Scarlet Witch and Jubilee together, so I'm a happy camper. We've got Batgirls issue 12, which is going to wrap up volume 2 of Batgirls from Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad with Jorge Corona on art. You've got Batman vs. Robin, and what I love about that is all of the variants are like classic video game choose your character moments, and I picked to bring the Steph Brown one because she's my favorite. But there's one for every single Robin. So there's a Nightwing, there's a Tim Drake, there's a Jason Todd Red Hood, there's a Damian, and who the story is actually about. But again, Steph Brown, my favorite. Black Panther Unconquered. This is a one-shot. If you didn't get it, I have a couple more copies that are coming in for the cover A as well. If you saw the Black Panther movie, please don't spoil it in the comments and tell us why you like. We will wait. We can all talk about Wakanda Forever later on. Beautiful movie. Let's not talk about it in the comments though, because we don't want to spoil it. It's too new. Spider-Man issue 2. This is the Dan Slott Spider-Man that is going on, which is subtitled on the second issue. Was not subtitled on the first issue, but the second issue has been subtitled End of the Spider-Verse. End of the Spider-Verse. So I didn't know it had a subtitle until issue 2 came out. And then lastly, in stock single issues this week, we have Soldier Stories. This is from Image. This is a one-shot. And this is actually a really, really beautiful thing where a comic creator reached out and worked with veterans to help them learn how to write comic books so that they could tell their stories. So these are actually, I believe there's 4 stories in here written by actual veterans who literally took like a couple month-long workshop on how to write comic books to learn how to tell their own story. And one of the veterans actually did not make it to the point where his comic was released, so he didn't get to see his comic actually come out. Incredible story, perfectly timed for Veterans Day, which, we want to just say thank you to everybody who served and who works to protect our country. Thank you this Veterans Day, and the Marines' birthday was also this week. Thank you for all those who served, and if you want to honor them, this is a really great way to do that by buying this book and helping out those soldiers who are telling their stories and just giving them a moment to shine and share those stories and experiences with us. And shout out to the creators who actually helped work with that, because that creator used some of their other creator friends to run that workshop, and a huge shout out to all those creators who took the time to help somebody learn to tell their story. That's one of the big things we do with our workshops. One of the things we talk about is that any writing and art form is a great way to share your emotional journey and your personal story. And I love that we're seeing people use that for ways for stories to be shared and to also work through your own emotions while you do it. We've got a lot of new trades out this week, starting with The Scorched, Volume 1. If you've been following along, you've seen that we've had a ton of new Spawn titles coming out this year. Todd McFarlane called this the year of Spawn, told us that we were going to see a new Spawn title pretty much a new Spawn issue every week for the last year, and we have, and this is issues 1 through 6 of The Scorched. Catwoman, this is technically, I believe, Volume 3 of the current Catwoman. Maybe more than that. No, we're on 39. But this is considered Volume 1 of Teenie Howard's. So this is issue 39 through 44 of Catwoman, but this is the starting point for Teenie Howard's story. So this is actually considered Volume 1, even though it starts on issue 39. So if you're looking for a great place to jump in on Catwoman, this is going to be a perfect place to do that. No pun intended. And you get these Jenny Frison and the Call covers, like both like on the, oh my gosh. And Teenie Howard writing a great story. Devil's Highway from AWA Upshot Volume 2. This is the wrap-up of the Devil's Highway story. This is great. Again, $10 for these trades. So if you read Volume 1, you're going to need to pick up Volume 2. It's right here. 7 Secrets, Volume 3, I believe. Yep, this is all of it. This is the end of 7 Secrets, except I really, really hope that it's actually not the end, because this is a great story, but this has been, this is allegedly the end of Tom Taylor's great story. If you've been trying to catch up, you should grab it. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's best from here. Captain Carter, this is issues 1 through 5 of the Captain Carter story that's been coming out recently, which is fantastic. This is what if Peggy would have taken the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers. We all know and love Captain Carter at this point, and this is a great way to get her story. And before you ask, no, I don't have the issues. If you wanted it in an issue form, I don't got them. Read the trade. And then Heavy Metal Drummer from Behemoth / Sumerian. I think the single issues will tell you that it's from Behemoth, but the trade will tell you Sumerian. We described this book as cats and cocaine, I believe, when we originally talked about it. But I'm going to show you just some of the crazy art. Gosh, I don't even know where to go with this art. It's so strange. But crazy book. This team is working on some new stories right now that are really cool as well. But if you like some of those crazy, trippy stories, this is definitely one of them. I believe every issue of this made it into Phil's Picks of the Week. So if you want to check it out, this is the trade for it. It's $19.99 and you get the whole entire story. And speaking of getting whole entire stories, a book that probably made it into my pick of the week every time is Twig from Scotty Young. This is issues 1 through 5, and this is actually called Perfect for Fans of Both Bone and the Dark Crystal, and I think that's a great way to describe this. This is the story of a little young creature-y thing who his father passes away, which means the mantle of being the one who can save the earth falls to him, and he must deliver a certain tool to a place to ensure that the world gets saved. And this is all 5 issues of his story, and it's super cute, and this is appropriate for all ages. This is one of those books that's definitely good for every age, and every age should read it. So if you haven't checked out Twig yet, it's $16.99 and you get the entire story. That's all I got. That's all the books. Did I miss any of them? No, we did it this time. We didn't actually miss half the books when we got to the end of the live stream. So, thank you for joining us. Coming up this week, we have a lot of events thanks to last week's giant rainstorm. We, on Wednesday, have our adult comic writing workshop. So if you are an adult, even if you're like 17, 18, and you want to learn how to write comic books, come out this Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to be learning how to write comic books in our classroom. On Thursday, we have Geek Girls Night. We are launching our new Geek Girls Bradenton program, and so if you are a lady who's looking for some fellow nerds that you can talk about whatever makes you nerd out, whether it's comics, it's movies, it's books of any kind, it's D&D, it's cards, it's your favorite dog or cat, and you just are looking for some other ladies who will nerd out with you, come on out. That's from 8 to 10 as well. We'll have some light snacks and some drinks that you can enjoy. Come hang out. I would love to meet all of the geeky girls in Bradenton and give them a safe space to just nerd out. And then Saturday is actually the 3rd Saturday of the month, which means it is also workshop day. So 11 to 1, we will have workshops for the younger kids. Anybody 12 and under, you can come out on Saturday, and we'll be doing comic writing workshops. And if you are an older kid, 12 and up, you can come out for our workshops that start at 2 p.m. and run until 4 p.m. as a comic writing workshop. It is going to be a very busy weekend busy week at Batsy. Plus, there's a lot of great books out. I'm not going to run through all of them, but it is a great week for comics as well, once again. So if we don't see you at those events, we'll definitely see you for New Comic Book Day on Wednesday. And as always, we'll see you here next Sunday to wind down your weekend. Maybe we'll have another great Tempranillo. Who knows? Might just be me, but we'll just wind down our weekend. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your week and happy reading.